It has certainly been a newsworthy week in the world of professional wrestling. And to help me break it all down, joining me on the hotline, he is kind enough to come on every now and again from House of Wrestling. It is Nick Hausman. Nick, how you doing, bud?
I am having a great day, Stu. I'm having a great day, banner day. Like I was telling you just before we started recording, definitely a top 5 traffic day for
Good.
House of Wrestling today. So thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Well, and we're going to talk about the story you put up. It'll be in conjunction with what I'm about to, so we will recap Crown Jewel, what there is to recap. Before that, though, WWE comes out. The initial report, however, came from our mutual colleague Mike Johnson at PW Insider, and then WWE confirmed it. Starting in October of 2024, NXT is moving to the CW from NBC Universal, specifically USA Network, a 5-year deal. And we know that the CW has been getting into live sports. They have Live Golf. They just contracted get the NASCAR Xfinity Series on the CW. They're carrying ACC football, and I think they're going to carry ACC basketball. This is kind of a big move for NXT and for CW. Talk a little bit about what you know about this 5-year deal.
Well, I know it's a 5-year deal. I believe they're getting more than whatever Billy Corgan was supposed to be getting. So yeah, the reason I'm doing so much traffic right now on the site, is as awesome as this NXT CW deal is. It's more because of the reporting I'd had about another wrestling company
Right.
is question mark still maybe CW bound.
A big question mark. You're right. The NWA had, they had announced that they had signed 2 TV deals.
No, they had not announced that, Stu. I announced that.
You announced. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
They've not.
Well, okay. Let's say Billy Corgan had confirmed he had signed 2 TV deals. He wouldn't say with who. The reporting by you and indicated that at least one of those was going to be the CW.
No, my reporting, Stu, was that both of those deals were for CW.
You have to forgive me. I'm trying to keep everybody in.
It's okay. No, it's not like my whole life hasn't been nothing but CW, Smashing Pumpkins, NXT for the last 96 hours. Yeah, no, both those deals were going to be are for the CW, and the reason I say are is I don't know that whatever agreement Billy has with the CW is just gone away, because timeline wise, I think CW can honor the deal they had with Billy, because I believe that the content he was set to air, which was Power and this yet to be named NWE reality series, was going to start airing in Q1 of 2024. Now, after Billy decided to book this cocaine segment at NWA Samhain, which is a real sentence I just said out loud into the world, because people knew that the company was CW bound because of my reporting, CW then got inundated with messages on social media and elsewhere from fans that were like, hey, I didn't know that you guys were going to have the C in CW stand for cocaine. And so the network, from what I'm told, higher ups, quickly were like, you know what? We're not going to put you on TV. You are going onto the app. There's a CW app for anybody who doesn't know. It exists. So they're going to go on the app as like streaming footage, which is very different than the 103 million homes or whatever that comes along with being on the actual television, network television. This is the moment where NXT, who, from what it sounds like, and this is still a very fluid story right now, but from what it sounds like to me, putting things together, is like NXT was talking to CW before Billy's deal, But Billy made a really great offer to CW, which was you don't. And again, this is from what I'm hearing, what I'm reporting, which was you don't need to pay me for this content. I'm going to produce this content on my own. You just need to air the content, and you can make money on it by selling the ads. And I and NWA will then make money by having more live events, selling live tickets, selling more t-shirts, because again, we're being seen by 103 million people, right? That was the plan. With that no longer on the table, CW goes, well, now we would actually like to have wrestling on our television, but we don't want Billy Corgan's cocaine fueled product. Well, you know what? We were talking to WWE. Do you think they'd come back to the table? In walks Nick Khan. You know, the couple weeks that I think Mike reported, the 2 weeks or whatever, very much lines up with the kind of cocaine spot timeline. I've never said, I haven't used the word cocaine, by the way, so much since I was doing improv in Chicago 10 years ago. And that's when I believe NXT kind of swoops in. They made a deal with the CW to be on network television. Wade is saying it's an 8-figure deal. Wade is also saying that NWA was offered 8 figures, and I love Wade. That is not what I'm hearing. Again, like I'm hearing what I told you, which was a trade content for space. But right. I could be wrong. We'll see. 8 figures in that, what I described are very disparate planets. But I don't doubt that in the end, WWE was able to secure sizable TV rights, much more than what they're getting for USA right now. And they also get one more piece of competition off of television. I don't think they see the NWA as direct competition, but it's still another wrestling product on network television. And people see wrestling and they go, oh, that's wrestling. That's what all wrestling is. So if they see something in NWA, maybe that affects their opinion of WWE. It's weird like that. So this is an opportunity for them to move Billy out, take that space, grab some money, and appease many masters at the same time. I thought it was a masters, very bad situation for Billy to be in. He was just on ESPN Chicago 1000 AM about an hour ago, and he just said it was a crazy, crazy time for the NWA, and that is all we heard from him. And that's also, by the way, what it sounds like anyone that works for the company has heard, because Billy has yet to address internally with his office team or roster any of these controversies or the what's going on with CW. So there you go.
Man, that's a lot. It's, I guess you got to start with so NXT, CW, the scuttlebutt that is being bantied around. They're talking 30, 35 million a year, which you're right. That would be, a huge increase over what they're getting from NBC Universal for USA Network,
right?
Which again, great for NXT, and we know that the thinking has been to have NXT as a standalone brand alongside Raw and SmackDown. Which is why we're seeing a lot of the Raw and SmackDown superstars on NXT and vice versa.
Right.
Regarding the story with the NWA, and I saw the little clip where the Sinister Minister James Mitchell is doing, he's got the spoonful of Coke or at least something, and he snorts it.
Have you ever? Here's the thing, Stu. You don't need to answer this question. You don't need to answer this question. Have you ever done cocaine, Stu?
I'll be perfectly honest. I have smoked pot twice.
Okay.
Both times it made me sleepy, so I don't do drugs. No.
Okay. I used to do quite a bit of cocaine.
Okay.
When I was doing improv comedy in Chicago.
Right.
And I don't anymore. I don't. It doesn't. I have no ambition to do that, anything like that. But I had somebody very close to the situation be like, and this was early on in the saga, like right after it had happened, like maybe the day or so after.
Right.
They were like, what's the reaction to the cocaine spot? I was like, it kind of feels like it kind of feels like you feel however you feel about cocaine. That's how you reacted to this, right? Because I can see people that do cocaine loving it and thinking it's hilarious, or people that have done cocaine or whatever. But for people that have never done cocaine, I don't know. Anyway, your thoughts. I just wanted to go on a little tangent there.
Well, it seems like something that it's one of those things that the story, whatever story they were telling, would have been fine without it. The fact that they did it on the heels of this alleged deal that may or may not be with the CW seems like a really bad idea.
Oh yeah.
I'm wondering who made the call. Was
It was Billy. It was Billy's idea.
Billy made this call, which
yeah, well, yeah. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
And this leads, and I think this was in your article about the frustrations with talent and others at the with the leadership of Billy Corgan and the NWA. Expound on that a little bit more.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on there. And it's not just about the cocaine segment. Although, because truthfully, when I asked around, I was like, what do people think about this cocaine spot? Some people laughed, some people rolled their eyes, but that's not really what the deal breaker was. It's deeper than that. Billy, many years ago, when he was taking over the NWA, he had Dave Lagana by his side, somebody who's since been Me Too'd and is no longer part of the business, thank goodness. And so then former Simon Diamond, Pat Kinney, comes into the picture. Kinney becomes the second to Billy. He's sitting in, he's helping with creative, he's helping to relay communications, talent relations, all that, yada, yada, yada. Unfortunately, about a year ago, Pat, it sounds like, suffered a stroke. And, when he was away, he's back now. He is working in it was described to me like a Johnny Ace type talent relations role, handling hirings and firings, that kind of deal. Billy then moved fully into a creative control capacity without kind of a right-hand man by his side to filter ideas and talk to the rest of the team. And that's where the gears began to gum up, because Billy is a very, very busy man. He is even, because just for full transparency, I did used to work with Billy. I worked for Billy. I've been paid by Billy over a decade ago when he was running Resistance Pro Wrestling here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And so Billy's a very busy guy, right? He's when I was working with him, he was not doing the Smashy Pumpkin. He was, but it was that weird period where he had a bunch of college students and they did Oceania, and it's a decent album. But anyway, now he's full on back with the band. And he's on tour, right. And he's got charities, and he's got all kinds of stuff going on. And so people in the idea of him relaying stuff to the team about where creatively he wants to be going is not happening. Even lesser so to a one-on-one talent to Billy ratio, because it is nearly impossible for a talent, from what I hear, unless you are a higher name talent, to get in and really get any kind of meaningful time with Billy. And what is happening is, a lot of the time, from what I hear, Billy shows up the day before for a production meeting or the day of for a production meeting, and that's where everybody finds out what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And that kind of frustration from talent, where there's this long period, you don't know what's going on, you get there, you kind of have this stuff thrown at you. You're also, if you're a younger talent, maybe under a multi-year contract, so you're not taking bookings elsewhere, and depending on how you're portrayed on the show, that can affect your whatever. And on top of that, I've heard Billy's doing things like testing talent, being overly critical of them just to see how they react and if they can take it or whatever, that kind of old school tough guy strategy of weeding out people that don't have your loyalty or whatever. I think that's a generational thing. I think that, that's the kind of stuff pre-social media and internet, where everybody couldn't get together and complain about it, you could get away with. But now you can't treat people like that. And that came across really terse and tough. I know when I say you can't treat people like that, but there are some people that are upset with the way they've been put into this situation. They have this contract, now they're there, and they're getting treated a certain way, and they can't do certain things. And I totally understand the argument of, you sign the contract, you buy the ticket, you take the ride, that kind of deal. But it's a frustration there, and it sounds like it's pretty widespread where there's a lot of people that are kind of frustrated. To be fair, I did talk to other talents that were very happy with their spot. They were just, again, happy to be on the ride. But Billy's inability to talk to people, communicate. I heard multiple people across the board say, I wish he would find a creative team, find people he could filter his ideas through, find people to delegate to. All of that kind of stuff was described to me because the infrastructure is there. There's a team in place. They're all just waiting. It's like if the quarterback only showed up for games and not practices, that kind of deal.
Right. Well, and you just mentioned, delegating and using a creative team. It's almost eerie. We hear the same things about Tony Khan with AEW.
Oh boy.
Although we're not, I don't know how much acrimony there is among the talent in AEW, but this thing with Billy and the whole testing thing, and this feels like Vince is in charge. What Vince would do with NXT 2.0, where they would have job somebody out just to see how they react.
That is what was one exact scenario where somebody said to me, Billy will bring somebody in who thinks they're over and make them lose just to see how they react to the creative in the booking.
Which, look, I get you're a wrestler, you do your job, follow the creative. I get that, but you're right. At the same time, I think there's better ways to do that.
You're not alone.
Not quite as heavy-handed, maybe. So I think it was you that had the quotes from EC3, the current NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Yes, and I'm glad that
he's happy, and he says he sounds like he's happy with his position, but then again, he's on top.
He's the champion.
Yeah, kind of hard to not be happy when you're on top, right?
I did not want the piece to come across as like heavy-handed. Everybody hates Billy, because that's not the case. I did talk to people that were, again, happy. I talked to other people that were not happy, right? That's why I kind of measured it at frustrations, right? Because that's the thing, even from people, and again, not from Ethan, and everything. Ethan and I did not have any phone calls. All of our communications were in text. WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get there with Ethan's response to what I presented him with.
Yeah.
But I wanted to show as much robustness to this situation as possible, because you're right. This is the top guy. This is how he feels. He is probably getting different treatment from Billy than somebody who's less established, trying to make their name, and is going to have a very, very different story to tell. But I did not want the piece to come across as a hit piece.
Right.
I wanted it to have as much perspective and insight into the totality of the situation as possible.
And look, this could be a situation where there are probably some whose egos are probably a little bruised because they're not getting the time with Billy, or they're not getting the creative that they think they should. Look, you and I both know, wrestlers are, for lack better term, they're artists. They have an artist's mind, just like any other entertainer. So sometimes there's some delicacies.
I agree. It is like an orchestra or a symphony. You have to know how to get all the instruments to work together to make beautiful music. Yeah. And I think that is something, not to blow too much smoke here, but like Triple H has talked about for a long, long time how a happy locker room makes for a better product. And I can tell you that I have heard from many people that the culture of WWE has changed like dramatically, and this has been for a couple years coming. They've been doing things, but like Triple H right now Paul Levesque is adamant about creating a space where not just from an audience perspective is family friendly. Like if you're a roster member and you want to bring your kids and your wife to a show and have them be backstage, they are also going to feel welcome there. Yeah. And that is crazy, right? Like the only place that you're expecting, if there is any kind of animus or animosity, go to your hotel rooms. It's not even welcome backstage, right? We have a level of professionalism that we expect from the moment you walk in the building. And you don't hear these stories from WWE right now.
No.
You're not you don't hear these stories. You don't see people bickering on Twitter. You don't see any of it. What you see right now at WWE is a focused product where people are talking about what happens on screen unless they purposefully, like yesterday with the CW deal, want you to be talking about some other business thing they're doing. There are very, very few stories like we hear about these other companies, and it is a credit to how Hunter, I think, is trying. And look, there are people there not happy. Don't get me wrong, but it is a much more friendly, welcoming environment than I think wrestlers can find just about anywhere else at the moment.
Right. Not to mention much more positive than when Vince was in charge. So
well, and that's the thing is it's just like there's a lot going, and it's only been a month and a half, 2 months, and like since Hunter's, really, I heard from the moment that I had heard from somebody that from the moment the deal was closed, like it was done. Vince was out, Hunter was in, and Hunter was just waiting, just like tick, 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 tick. And then the moment it went through, Hunter's like, cool, I'm back in charge again. And Vince went away. And it didn't get reported for a couple weeks, because we had the cuts and the layoffs and things. And that was the big focus. Really, really difficult time for a lot of people. But on the other side of that, when they wanted to get that mojo rolling, I don't think it's a huge surprise that that's when they started to trot out, hey, the real deal here is Paul's back. Yeah. Vince is out.
Yeah. You're right. Let's talk a little WWE Crown Jewel. They had their latest, shall we say, sports washing event for Saudi Arabia.
Man. Stu, just pushing my buttons.
It's one of those things. I mean, we'll get to the in-ring action in a moment, but look, we've had these events for a few years now. Yes, they generate a lot of revenue for WWE. The Saudi Arabia fans get a great show, but we know that, and this is, in Saudi Arabia, it's not just WWE, it's their investment in Live Golf. It's the soccer they've been trying to, with the soccer.
They're aren't they like they do races like F1 races and stuff like that, don't they?
I
know they have.
Don't think they have an F1 race. I think they may have either a Le Mans race or something, but not F1. Abu Dhabi, I think, is the closest they get.
The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I'm looking at it here right now.
Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Mm-hmm. When was it?
It was in 2021. It was 2 years ago.
Oh, that may have been.
And they're doing another one. It's in 2023.
Okay. Well, shows you how much. It's because Max Verstappen wins all of them, so they
already happened. It was all back in March. Yeah, they did earlier this year.
Okay, you're right. Yes, right at the beginning of the season.
Because they're going all out. I agree with you. They're going all out right now. They've got all kinds of stuff going at the same time.
Yeah, you're right. It was, early in the F1 season. I'm sure Max Verstappen won too. So, and it's fine. The biggest news that came out of Crown Jewel, Logan Paul beats Rey Mysterio. He wins the United States title. Was this a reaction to Tyrus holding the NWA belt all the time on Fox News? Was this WWE's way to get one of their titles on a widely distributed, whether it's YouTube video or whatever?
I think it's I don't know that I would compare Logan Paul to Tyrus. I think there's a margin of difference between the two men.
Not talent wise. I'm just saying the exposure.
And before we get into it, I do want to address your sports washing quip there at the top,
Yeah.
because it is something that comes up a lot. Because look, I'm a journalist. I have friends that are journalists, and there are critics right now in Saudi Arabia that are being put to death. There are journalists that are being sentenced to death in Saudi Arabia for criticizing the kingdom or the leadership, MBS, right? That's a real thing. And it is a little, look, the thing that bugs me the most is when I have, and people I like, friends of mine, say, well, we do terrible things too. And there's this big, like, whataboutism. And it's very nihilistic. And I just don't buy it, right? Like, I just don't think Joe Biden's going to be like, hey, Tucker Carlson, yeah, let's whack him. Like, that'll fix it. A great way to stop the next insurrection. Like, let's just jail our enemies. And I know that's a narrative that, some people would like to believe it's not based in reality, but that's the kinds of narratives that tyrants and authoritarians try to weave and lead to this kind of primrose path where you have people that are being killed. And if you're not standing up against it, you're standing beside it. And it is difficult for some of these shows to watch that play out. And I didn't want to like gloss past your point, because it is something I think about every single time I watch a Saudi show.
Yeah, it is, but it's, again, it's kind of a, shall we say, necessary evil that, those of us that cover wrestling or talk about wrestling got to talk about the event, because wrestling does happen. But yeah, give me your thoughts on Logan Paul as United States champion.
I think it's smart to put the title on Logan. Like you said, he's going to be somebody that you can take around to events, and he's going to have the title, and people are going to go, oh, Logan Paul, WWE champion, and that'll be great. I had somebody at one point, a former WWE 24/7 champion, tell me that one time they went to an event with Roman Reigns, and Roman had his title, and this champion had his 24/7 title. And a lot of people walked up to them and were like, wow, dude, you're the champ. And he's like, no, that guy's the champ. But they didn't know who Roman was. They just saw a guy with a WWE title because they have no idea what's going on. So it's a big deal. Even if you're not the top guy, like, you look like a WWE champion to people. Like, you're representing the company. I also think that obviously in the hierarchy of how you move up the ladder in pro wrestling, you win a mid-card title before you win the top title. Mm-hmm. And we don't know when Roman Reigns will ever lose his title. Obviously, Seth Rollins' title will probably be more flexible. But, he's building up a resume. He'll have had a mid-card title run. He'll have worked with some good people. And, someday he'll probably be world champion.
Yeah. Well, anything else, come to your mind about Crown Jewel? I mean, it was pretty much a, by the book card. No other titles changed hands. Rhea survived the 5-way. Roman, of course, wins against LA Knight.
I thought the Kairi Sane return was very well done.
Yeah, that was interesting. And she's been signed for a while. They just hadn't had her debut until at Crown Jewel. So it looks like Kairi Sane and Io Sky maybe teaming back up, first time since back in their, I guess, Stardom days, or but what does that mean for Damage Control? Because you saw the shot of Bailey looking confused. Of course, Dakota Kai is still out with injury. What does this mean for Damage Control now that Io Sky and Kairi Sane might be teaming together?
It's a great question, Stu. I think that it will probably, again, like, it doesn't have to be the end of Damage Control. It could be an evolution of Damage Control where, you look at the Wolfpack, you look at Bullet Club Gold, maybe there's like a sub faction within Damage Control. Is JD McDonough, is he even formally Judgment Day? Have they put him in?
I don't think so. I think he's still the kid that's he's like the little dog that's running around with the big dog.
I think he's in. I don't know.
You think?
They're going into war games. He's repping.
They are going into war games, yeah.
I don't know. I'll look for clarification. But
Okay.
there's like a little subsection. There's like a little subgroup within Judgment Day with him and Finn. So like, I don't know. I don't know that it means the end of Damage Control. Maybe just like maybe an evolution. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
Mhm.
Speaking of War Games, they did make it official at Survivor Series November 25th up in Chicago. It is going to be War Games, and in fact, we've got our first War Games match set. It'll be Judgment Day with JD or including JD McDonough, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio, JD McDonough taking on Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, and Jey Uso. I think that was kind of the rumored configuration that we were going to see. They've been, talking about that for a few weeks. I like that just because you got a clear cut, good guys, bad guys. We're not worried about brand supremacy or brand loyalty or whatever. It's just four guys with storylines against the other four guys, and let's have a fight.
Yeah, nice and easy. A lot of people pointing out how it's usually 5-on-5. So maybe Randy Orton comes back, joins the good guys team. Maybe a fifth member comes in, helps out Judgment Day. Maybe Drew McIntyre, who they've been teasing a lot of stuff with. I think we could see something like that.
And you say that I tend to recall when it was still in NXT, they had varying numbers of members on the team. I know at one time they did three teams. I think it was 3 teams of 3 people. I could see them do it 4. Yes, 5 is the traditional team. Going all the way back to the Horsemen and Dusty, Nikita, and the Road Warriors, and Precious Paul. So 5-on-5 is a traditional number. I'm okay with it staying at 4-on-4. That's fine, especially because they're going to do we think they're going to do a women's match. So 4-on-4, you won't have quite as much, as far as time for that match. So you can fit in the women's match. Miz wins the 4-way on Raw. So he's going to challenge Gunther for the Intercontinental title at Survivor Series.
He's taking on Ivar first, right? Next week on Raw.
Well, okay. So this was a big confusion. Apparently there was a botch.
Right.
Ricochet was not supposed to kick out of the pin.
Right.
And it was going to have to be a double pin. And then I guess it was going to be Miz and Ivar. Maybe they're going to do a triple threat or whatever. But Ricochet kicked out. Miz didn't. So you're right. Miz and Ivar are facing each other next week on Raw. They never said it's going to be for the title shot, though. Or at least I haven't heard that.
No, but I just want to bring it up because you read what I read, where that may not have been the appropriate finish there. I'm hoping I get some time with Ricochet oh no, they're not doing media scrum. We don't get press time at Survivor Series this year, do we?
You don't.
There's no press row. Oh, maybe media scrums. I'll ask him about it.
There you go. Maybe. But that'll be interesting. Miz and Gunther. Look, Gunther. Right now, I would say the 3 champions that WWE has that at least right now are bulletproof are Roman Reigns, Gunther, and Rhea Ripley. I don't think you're going to see any of those 3 drop a title at least until WrestleMania, and maybe even beyond that.
I don't know. With Gunther, now that he's broken the record, I think he's vulnerable. I think there's a reasonable amount of doubt now if the right contender came along that they might actually dethrone Gunther right now.
Is that contender currently on the main roster, or is it somebody coming from NXT, or is it somebody, or are they on somebody?
Man, I talked to Ilya Dragunov recently, and he was the guy who ended Gunther's NXT UK title reign, which was a fantastic match. Hundreds of days long. Yeah, they beat each other up real badly. And he thought, he was like, if I get the shot, I could do it. doesn't seem like it would happen anytime soon.
Well, and he's busy being the NXT champion. I'm a big fan of Ilya. I think he's fantastic, and
Maybe
I would
LA
love to
Knight.
see him in. Okay,
Because like LA Knight just
Knight.
lost to Roman Reigns. How do you heat up LA Knight after a world title loss? He could be Gunther.
Cross branded even.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
I mean, I guess the brand loyalties don't matter anymore. So
No, it doesn't. No, there's all kinds of shenanigans. You can shift people back and forth.
yeah. Meanwhile, Zoe Stark won the Battle Royal, so she gets the shot at Rhea Ripley's Women's World Title. Was Zoe Stark a surprise, or did that feel like, okay, yeah, that makes sense? I think it was both.
I kind of thought it was Nia's time. You know,
I don't know. I think they would have. I don't think the reaction would have been that great if Nia had won. Quite honest.
But she's fresh, and I think she's great. I think Nia Jax is really entertaining. I kind of thought they brought her in, they're shining her up. I thought she'd win. I just thought it'd be nice. Zoe Stark, very happy for Zoe. Don't get me wrong. I think she's going to be wonderful in this spot. She's more than deserving of the opportunity. I don't know that think she'll win. She could, but I just thought it was Nia's time. I was like, Nia's she's really entertaining right now.
I think, it's kind of what I just said about, Rhea's almost in that same neighborhood as Roman, where they're not having her drop the title, at least until Mania. And maybe they save Nia for WrestleMania.
Yeah, it kind of feels like Rhea Becky is the match they want to do at Mania.
Yeah, I know, and I know that's been kind of the scuttlebutt, the talk around the campfire is Rhea and Becky.
Right.
So maybe Rhea and Nia at Royal Rumble.
Maybe.
That's possible.
Yeah.
One NXT question. Did Carmelo Hayes attack Trick Williams?
I think we're gonna get swerved. And I don't mean Swerve Strickland's gonna get involved.
No, it's not Swerve.
Or Kofi Kingston or Xavier Woods for that matter.
Yeah.
Or maybe actually, I don't know, it'd be great if New Day was behind laying out Trick. No, I don't think it was Carmelo. Joe Gacy's kind of a wanderer right now. Kind of feels like could have Gacy's fingerprints on it.
They ended NXT last night with Lexis King, the former Brian Pillman Jr. He was casting doubt and everything. So
God,
they were trying to push.
What do you think, old Lexis King there?
Look, I like Brian.
I also like Brian. I feel like we both have to preface that. Yeah,
I think he's a great talent. The name, I get why they want to change the name. I'll be honest, I haven't seen enough of him in NXT to make a solid judgment.
Dude, he was bad, man. He was so bad. And I like Brian, but I thought his timing was off from the moment he came out and stepped into the ring and he went to put his sunglasses. Did you notice this? He went to put his sunglasses in his pocket, like he had a front pocket on his.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But there wasn't a pocket, and he didn't realize it, and he tried to do it a couple times, and then he just kind of looked at it. And I think he like threw the glasses away. Yeah. But it felt really stilted, and as polished and as real as the Trick and Carmelo stuff felt, I thought he was just a sore thumb. I thought that his timing was off, the believability was off. Felt like a guy who had been sitting in the back reciting lines and came out and did them as he had been pacing back and forth. Just felt stilted, just felt off. I was not
that whole last segment felt like they were just going round and round and round, and it was like, okay.
But no, it was fine when it was just tricking Carmelo. I really truly think that Lexis King came in there and just threw the energy off in a way that was, I mean, if they were going to do something with him, and I like Brian.
Yeah.
Again, I like Brian, but that was I thought he came across very, very poorly in that segment.
Let's switch gears to AEW. And there has been some talk, I think, amongst those of us that cover wrestling. There's been talk amongst others is AEW losing steam? Is the bloom off the rose? They're putting on great matches, but it feels like some of the stories are a bit disjointed.
Where to begin? Yeah, the product is not what it was cool factor wise, which is something Dave Meltzer has said and nobody has really pushed up against. There was so I kind of fell down a rabbit hole. I got given a tip, and I don't go at I look into every tip that I get to a reasonable degree, and I got a tip a couple days ago. It was about the AEW creative team, and it had a lot of people I knew, and I had to go talk to them. And it turned out like the substance of the tip I was given was really not, I don't believe, factual.
Mm-hmm.
But as I'm talking to people about the AEW creative team at length about this other story, I'm starting to kind of hear other stuff too that I can't really look past. And it does seem to me that Tony has a habit of kind of cycling through people he's listening to. Like, if you grab him, it's like surfing. If you grab him, maybe it's you and somebody else you work with really well. If you grab him, you got him, you're going to book for a little while. Mm-hmm. But as soon as Tony kind of starts to disagree or doesn't like it, well, there's these other guys over here. They got some ideas. Let's try for a while. And Tony has kind of cycled through all of those entities now and is going back to some people 2-3 times and recycling through them. And it's created this odd system where the creative is disjointed because it's not always the same people that are deciding what's creative. And whoever has the kind of sway at the moment can decide who and who is not getting a push. So you're not getting people pushed all the time, consistently all the time. And anyway, I think if you look at the model I just kind of laid out there, you can see how that could create frustrations and issues for people involved.
Yeah, I enjoy the wrestling. I enjoy the matches. To me, it does seem to have, and this was something that they talked about at the very beginning of AEW back in 2019, where it has a sports feel to it, where like I don't need a storyline for the Dallas Cowboys to play the Bengals. They're two teams, their opponents, go at it. And that's where some of these seem to go. It's like there are two opponents, let's go. But I understand that pro wrestling cannot be totally on that. You can't just put two guys in a ring and have them go. You got to have something to talk about why they're in the ring. Maybe unless they have one of them has a title, and it's a title defense.
I think that you're getting at something that is a shift going on in the company. Here's the story I wanted to run a couple days ago, and I did not write out because there were people that I thought might have opinions on it, and
right.
I just didn't want to get into it. I was like, this could get messy. But I am of the belief that there was some kind of come to Jesus recently with Tony and members of the roster and creative ensemble, where they decided they wanted to get back to what makes Dynamite particularly great. And what Dynamite does really well is that West Coast PWG style, a crazy, awesome action with very simple storytelling. And it's just fun, which is what the first couple of years of AEW were, right? Kind of veered off. I don't want to, again, I don't want to get too deep. I don't want to piss anybody off, right?
Right.
There were certain shifts that were made over time that kind of moved away from that. When you talk about a sports-based agenda, wins and losses, I think this kind of get back to what we're good at mentality, we'll have less of that. I think the whole wins and losses thing, much kind of, I don't think we're disagreeing on this, because you said, like, you don't need a win-loss record to put together two big, great basketball teams that you care about, right? I think the win-loss records will be less important. I think they will get back to personalities, maybe a little bit more sports entertainment in the way they're put together, but people are going to have great matches together, and that's the point. That's what you're getting at. You want to do great matches, simple stories, great matches, and I will hang my hat in this moment on saying that I think you will see more of that, at least in the immediate future, from AEW.
Okay. Understand. Real quick before I let you go, it is announced Bryan Danielson is going to face Kazuchika Okada at Wrestle Kingdom, New Japan's big show, January 4th in Tokyo Dome. That is if Bryan Danielson can recover from the broken orbital bone. If he doesn't, how do they pivot? I mean, Okada in a match, at least personally, I love to see Okada in a match, but you gotta get the right opponent. I mean, are they doing this because they are confident that the American Dragon can be recovered in time to make that trip?
Let's be real. Bryan Danielson's gonna wrestle this match. Like, they're going to Japan. It's just outside of AEW's purview. Bryan Danielson's going to do this match. I have no doubt about that. Even when he was not fully cleared, he went to a strap match. He was like, yeah, I talked to the doctors. They're like, dude, you can't do some of this stuff. And he's like, all right, well, I won't do that stuff, but can I do this? And they're like, okay, I guess. And he's like, cool, I'll put a match together like that. He'll do the same. Can't use his head, all kicks. He'll just go Inoki. He'll lay on the ground and just, invite Muhammad Ali into a clinch. Let's see if that works. Bryan Danielson's shown up and doing this match. I'm not doubting that. You want to put, can we gamble over can we put $5 on it?
Oh, I look, I'm with you. I think he's going to be there. Right. I think he'll be there even if, but there is that, I guess, a 1% possibility, if something happens between now and January where the bone is not healing right or something like that, boom. We've seen it happen before.
He's going to fight Kazuchika Okada at Wrestle Kingdom, and he's gonna try to murder this man. And here's the thing, Stu. Here's a closing thought for everybody. Bryan Danielson knows it's a work, right? Like, you're not supposed to get in there and actually beat the shit out of the other guy.
Right.
He knows that, right?
Yeah, sure.
Bret the Hitman Hart, who we all love, said in Wrestling with Shadows, you ever opening 15-second salvo of Wrestling with Shadows. He's like, you ever wonder why I kick a guy full speed in the face with my boot and he doesn't walk away with a bruise? Because that's the magic of wrestling, right? Somebody just tell that to Bryan Danielson. Somebody just tell people, hey, when you hit somebody, they should get a hematoma in their face. You hit somebody, you shouldn't have to worry about every capillary in your chest exploding, right? The joy and the beauty of wrestling is making it not hurt the other guy. I only say that, and I'm grouchy old Nick Hausman here, comedian who got into the world of wrestling, because when you get into a space where you're like, hey, the only way to make money and get ahead is if this guy beats the shit out of you because he's over and that's the style he likes. I'm sorry. That's not the art of wrestling. That's not the art of wrestling as I perceive the art of wrestling to be. So I think Bryan Danielson, obviously very, very talented and tough as shit individual, but I think the guardrails that were put on him in WWE probably were for the best, because you should. I don't get it, man. I don't understand. And I feel bad for you got him like, hey, you want to wrestle me in a top match? I got to beat the shit out of you. Moxley here, you want to wrestle Mox, the other top guy of the company? Roll around in broken glass. What kind of a message, what kind of an initiation process is that for people like young talent just trying to buy a car, right? Oh, okay, so I want to get over, so I got to like fall into Legos? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Bugs me, Stu. Bugs me to no end. Got all fired up here in the last few minutes.
I know it. I know it. It's just mean. All right, man. He is Nick Hausman. Get everything that he is writing. Haus of Wrestling, HAUS of wrestling.com. Follow him on X and all the social medias. Nick, I appreciate it, man. I always learn something when I talk to you. I always get a little bit smarter. So I appreciate it. Have a good time. Enjoy your new condo, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Stu.